Today I want to talk about how small, almost imperceptible steps can take you to completely new places if you take enough of them. So look where I am right now. This is a little bit of a Spencer's Adventures field trip that I've been on the last couple of weeks. I've been traveling around the country, doing a few different jobs for work, and I've been out here on the east coast of the country right now, shooting a few different television episodes. The episodes have ended now, and I'm just kind of road tripping around before I head home. I'm now on a beach here in Prince Edward Island, beautiful Prince Edward Island. There's beaches like this all over the entire province. There's so many that a lot of them aren't very busy just because there's so many options for people to choose from. I slept here last night. This was where I slept. My car is parked just over here. There's no rule against overnight camping at a lot of these beaches. So I was just able to park there, sleep, and then wake up and come right here. And when I end up doing cool things like this, where I just end up in beautiful places, I have a moment to reflect and I just think, how did this happen? And the answer to that question is actually the topic of this video today. It's the power of small baby steps and how they can lead you just from a small, 1 degree course correction can take you to somewhere completely different. Let's get into that today. If you don't know me, I'm Spencer, and I like to talk about simple living, frugality, and ways to cut down on your technology usage, sometimes by using other technologies. So I want this video to not just be about me, because it's not just about me. It's about the power of taking small steps and how those can take you to somewhere completely new that you would never have expected your life would take you if you just take these small steps and you take them for long enough. 10 years ago, back when I was going through school to be a police officer, studying criminology, if you told me that I was going to work in the TV industry and I was going to be traveling around the country, shooting shows in small towns and getting to camp in my car and stay on beaches and whatever else, I would have said you were crazy. It doesn't sound... It was just so out of my realm of possibility at that time that it seemed crazy. It seemed just completely not like my life. It's taken a lot of small steps, things that were imperceptible at the time almost, things that really didn't seem like they were one thing leading to the next, didn't seem like a linear path. It just didn't really seem like much of a path at all. But retrospectively, it seems like a path. After I got out of my criminology degree and I decided I didn't want to be a police officer, I just kind of floated around doing random jobs and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I started to learn that I didn't really like the 9-to-5 job. Now, I do want to say, I don't have a problem with 9-to-5 jobs in general. If you like your 9-to-5 job, if you like the job that you do, then that's pretty much the dream job for you because you get steady pay and you're doing something that you relatively enjoy and you get to have a livelihood from that. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. But for me, I found that my jobs that I was in were not really stimulating. They weren't high paying. The people around me were pretty nice, but I still didn't really want to be there that much, and I couldn't see myself being there for 40 years. I knew that I wanted to make a change, and I knew that I wanted to be freelance. I don't like being on other people's schedules, and I knew that I wanted to basically have a little bit more say in my time and my schedule, so I wanted to move into a contract-based freelance field. So I went back to school. In 2018, I went back to school in the film industry. I studied advanced television and film. It was a 1-year diploma. And I learned all of the nuts and bolts of the industry, the hard skills that I needed to know to succeed on set. And then I got sent out on an internship, and that was that. But that wasn't truly that, because I didn't get a lot of jobs right away. For the first couple of years, I had a very small network of jobs, and I didn't really have a lot of opportunities coming to me a lot of the time. I looked around for things, and I took other jobs here and there. But ultimately, I was basically just treading water, just keeping my head above water, just enough to breathe, but it was tough. I was fighting every day. Not to mention that I was living in an absolute dive in the city of Toronto. I'm talking about ground floor overpriced apartment, full of bugs, full of cockroaches specifically, crazy neighbor coming in the window, coming up to my window asking me for money. Eventually, the whole ceiling collapsed in the apartment because of a leak that was unresolved for 2 years, even though I'd been emailing them about it, asking them to come investigate it. It was a terrible place, and it cost me way too much money than it should. It should have been paying me to be living there, honestly. But over those years in the film industry, even though I wasn't making a lot of money, what I was doing was learning a lot of new skills. I was making new connections and I was learning. Pretty soon I stopped being a production assistant and I moved into the camera and lighting departments, and I was learning both of those crafts. I still wasn't making much money though. By 2022, I was in quite a bit of debt, and I've talked about this in a previous video. I'll link it above. I started to work really hard trying to pay off my debt. I took extra jobs. I sold things that I didn't need. And I also was living like a hobo, basically, eating only canned foods. I got this one opportunity to do one episode as a camera assistant, and I took it because I really didn't have much going on at that time. And it was on that 1 week show, that 1 week opportunity, that things really started to speed up. Things really started to accelerate. On that show, I was commuting with another coworker who was one of my bosses. It was a woman who ended up being my girlfriend's mom, my future girlfriend's mom. She introduced us, and not long after that, we started dating, and a year later, we moved in together. I was able to get out of my complete dive of an apartment, and I'm in a much better place now. But more, that show ended up hiring me on for the rest of that season. And then it got renewed for another season, and then another. And that's what I was just doing last week. I was still working on this show. Now, that show doesn't take me, it doesn't fill my schedule for the whole year, but it's been very significant because it allowed me to travel. Previously to that, I hadn't traveled in like 5 years just because I couldn't afford to. I literally hadn't went even a few hours from the city just because I couldn't even spare the time. When I had time off, I didn't have the money. And when I had the money, I didn't have the time. That was basically the way that it always was. I wasn't able to do any traveling. But this job, it afforded me to travel because they paid for it. They paid for us to come out to these places. You know, they paid me my income, and then they also just paid for my accommodations. So I was able to come to these places and see these things, but I wasn't actually having to use my money to do so. And in fact, I was making money in the process. Because I finally started to have a bit more of a steady income, I was able to start hammering the money down and putting away that debt. And because I finally was able to build up enough of an emergency fund where I could breathe and finally enjoy the slow times of the industry, where I could actually take on other projects and do things for fun, for passion, then I was able to start this YouTube channel and be talking to you guys right now. And to look back 10 years ago to that scared kid who really didn't know how his life was going to turn out any way that he remotely wanted it to, didn't know where his money was going to come from, and he felt that he was kind of on this kind of track, these rails that he couldn't get off of, and I was heading towards something that I really didn't want to go to. It's really just crazy to see how things have changed over those years. But once again, it didn't come down to being just one thing. It was making all of these small changes over the past decade that have amounted to this. By choosing the film industry in the first place, by choosing that I was going to turn away from that normal 9 to 5, by building those skills, by taking all of these small jobs, learning the industry, then learning camera skills, then learning lighting skills, applying those skills, finding more remote jobs like my motorcycle job that I do where I travel, to finally applying all of those skills that I had learned up to that point over those years to get that job working on the TV show that I'm still working on today, and then further using those skills to start this YouTube channel. My point is to say that this wasn't one big leap that happened, one big change. There were so many little things that at the time didn't seem like it was even maybe worth doing. It didn't seem like it was a big deal. Didn't seem like it was maybe going to pan out. It maybe seemed like, what's the use? But by doing those what's the use type things over and over again, and believing that if you do them long enough that things are going to change, they ultimately did. I think that this is so impactful for people who are, have a family and they have a full-time job and they don't want to throw that all away to make some crazy big change. They don't want to throw away all their possessions and quit their job and then walk into the woods or whatever it is. This is the way to go, is taking these small steps. These steps could be so small that the people in your life don't even recognize that you're taking them. It's not going to be until a year or a couple years from then that they ask you, how did you do this? How did you make this change? And it will be because of all of those small steps that they didn't realize you were making all along. And the fact that they are so imperceptible, the fact that these baby steps can be taken and the people around you aren't going to really notice, they're not going to make waves in your life. They're not going to really create any troubles for you. They can only benefit you. Think of it like a ship. That little 1 degree change, it doesn't really seem like anything aboard the ship. But over the nautical miles going on and on this ship, that 1 degree change ends up putting you on a completely new course. They say that people overestimate what they can get done in 1 year, but they greatly underestimate how much that they can get done in 10 years. And I think that really comes down to this. I really think that is because these baby steps, they seem so small in the moment, but they're the biggest change that you can make in your life. I hope you found this video interesting, folks. Just my experience with taking baby steps and how I think that they can honestly be the most powerful tool for any person looking to make big changes in their life without rocking the boat too much, so to say. Let me know what you think in the comments section about this video. Have you taken any small steps that have really amounted to big changes over a longer period of time? I'd love to hear from you in the comments section if so. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.